What's up everyone, I'm excited to bring today's video because me and my friends decided to just stack up for the recent ESL 1 Hamburg tournament. We got put against Team Zlotl. If you're not familiar with who they are, they're a very good Mexican team if I am not mistaken, and we had an extremely great performance, and I think there's a ton for me to talk about to really show off a bit of 5-man Dota, right? Kind of describe maybe what you want to look for in your games or what you can reciprocate from the exact game here that we've played. So the first thing I want to do is go over drafting. This is personally one of my favorite parts of Dota. It's where a lot of the strategy comes into play. And if you know anything about me, I love strategy in Dota. It's why I'm so fascinated by this game. But yeah, let's get into it. Do you want to carry your games but always find yourself stuck in the support role? On gameleap.com, we have the tools you need to take control of your games as a Pause 4 and Pause 5. With hundreds of guides covering hero specifics and key concepts like ganking and lane control, GameLeap is the place to unlock your potential as a support player. Hit the discount link in the description below to start today. So for first phase bans, I'm not totally sure what you're supposed to ban right now. Bans is one of those things where it's typically based on the enemy's comfort picks or just meta heroes. So they ban out the Magnus, the Enchantress, and the Sand King, and we ban out the Night Stalker, Tiny, and the Mirana. Now, something to consider first off is that they have first pick, right? And because they have first pick, I want to ban all the heroes that I think are the best first picks. So I think all three of these are very good first pick material. They go for the Chen, which is also an amazing first pick hero because he just gives you a good laning stage, and you can very easily build an entire draft around him if you want because he's a good pushing hero. And we don't go too crazy in responding to Chen, right? We don't pick some CM or Doom to eat his creep. We kind of just play with what we think we want to play with. So we go for this Leshrac pick coming up here just because it's a very flexible hero, right? Leshrac is a hero that can go in any lane, even in any role if you want to argue at that. We end up putting him mid this game, which I'll talk further about. But in general, I really liked this opener because I think it keeps the draft kind of open. All we have to do now is fill it in with a few frontline heroes, and these heroes are going to pump out a lot of damage, right? It's just kind of the nature of Shadow Demon Leshrac. It's a ton of burst and very hard to fight into. Now, they go for the Ember Spirit, and as far as I'm concerned, Ember Spirit is decent against Leshrac because he can keep the distance, right? It's hard for Leshrac to stay on top of Ember Spirit. It's hard to Eul's combo him because he can Remnant. Basically, it's hard for Leshrac to actually bully out Ember Spirit, and even in the laning stage, he can slight dodge your Splitter if that ends up being the matchup. But I think Zlotl picks this in the hopes of just putting it safe lane, as Ember Spirit is a hero that typically gets zoned out in lane pretty easily, right? It's a slightly low armor hero. It had gotten buffed in the past, nerfed as of recent, but in general, not necessarily the strongest early, and as a result, having a Chen giving you potentially 7 HP regen with a headdress is great for actually helping you out in the laning stage. Also, side note, Shadow Demon and Leshrac, pretty good lane if you did want to run it, right? Disruption into Split Earth, it's pretty solid. You are double ranged, which isn't always the best, but certainly not the end of the world. Now, in terms of bans, I'm just going to briefly talk about them. We ban mostly on what we thought either countered our heroes or comfort. So we ban the Beastmaster and the Lifestealer, and first off, to talk about the Beastmaster, we don't want to play against Chen Beastmaster. It's very good at deathballing, and I was notified while drafting that they have a Beastmaster player, so right, once again, banning comfort, it's very important. They ban the Legion, we ban the Beastmaster, they go for the Slaughter, and once we see the Slaughter and the Legion bans, you kind of lose some of the potential answers for a Lifestealer, right? A lot of the Rage TP gets nullified, and that's not necessarily a direct reason to ban the hero, because there are other options. However, in general, we still fear the Lifestealer to some extent, as it's very good with Chen and lane. It's basically impossible to pressure him out in the majority of situations with the potential regen that he gets. And also, once again, just pretty good against Shadow Demon and Leshrac. Right? It's very hard for them to do too much to Lifestealer. Leshrac can keep up the tempo and pressure him with Edict, but not always the best. Here we go for Gyro, and why do I like Gyro here? I think it works very well with Leshrac in a lot of cases. You can go unbelievably high tempo if you want. You can just consistently fight. You have no cooldowns essentially, so you can do whatever you want, and you can flex the lanes really hard. So in this case, funny enough, we actually picked the Gyro in our mid. I wasn't too comfortable necessarily in Gyro at the time, but we picked it anyway. Zlotl wouldn't necessarily know that because Gyro is a hero that can go safer mid, so is Leshrac, right? So we can keep our lanes open and get whatever matchups we feel necessary. They respond with the Rubik, which I think is a pretty solid pick this game. Chen, Ember, and Rubik set up for a really good push strat because it's hard to fight into those heroes. They all have very long range spells, or, you know, Chen not necessarily, but he's Chen for pushing all the heal. But Rubik and Ember, if you try to approach anyone around them, you're just going to take instantly like 600 damage. It's very hard to deal with. Next up, we go for the Bristleback. We just felt like they lacked damage, to put that simply. Rubik, there's no good steals for him in Bristle, which, you know, it's not really the reason why we picked it, but in general, they kind of lack damage for Bristles, so what our intent was, you know, is maybe force them to pick a hero that they don't maybe want to pick, right? It puts them in a situation where they have to adjust the Bristleback with maybe like a Timber or what they pick in OD, instead of getting some like pushing hero that's necessarily good with the potential death ball of a Chen. Not saying that's exactly what they're going for, but the potential. So they go for the OD to sort of counter it out. And personally, I think we all agreed we weren't a huge fan of this pick at the end of the day. We felt like maybe they could have had better options that could have actually enabled them to fight a bit earlier, or, you know, fight in terms of around their Shen and pressure some towers, which OD does not do that well. He doesn't fight the best early, especially against Gyro and Lesh. They can kind of run him down and get on top of him. And finally, they go for the Axe. I think they go for the Axe to kind of turn around Bristle. It's a good option there. It's a very good Blade Mail game, and Axe is a natural Blade Mail carrier, right? So if he Blade Mail calls Gyro or Leshrac, especially when they have their spells on, they're going to kill themselves. But at the same time, like, yes, it's good for that, but now we have the Shadow Demon who can disrupt and save anyone from the Axe, and we go for Bane. To be honest, we were running out of time and didn't know what to pick. I would be lying if I said anything else. It was suggested by Save, and ended up kind of working out. To talk about why it's potentially good here, lanes well with Gyrocopter, which we knew we were putting safe lane. We ended up dual laning. We were talking about like a lot of different laning options, potentially tri-laning the Axe, going aggro. We decided to just leave it at dual lanes, but in general here, we go for this last pick Bane, just to kind of create a slight meat shield for Gyro in the laning stage, and then a bit more save and catch for their potential BKBs later on. And even, you know, sleep is pretty good against Axe as well, because you can, once again, sleep the calls. So we have a lot of options for call, actually. It's really hard for the Axe to actually do anything in these mid-game fights, which you'll see. Now, I'm going to be following mostly myself in this game, just because I can give a lot more of my thoughts than anyone else's. That's just kind of how it goes. In the future, or in the comments down below, let me know if you guys want to see the perspective of this game from anyone else. But overall, what I want to talk about mostly is the team play. I'll talk about the lanes briefly, but for the most part, I just want to talk about how we traverse the map, force them back, and sort of general plays that we made to actually close out the map and close out the game altogether. So first off, I'm going to briefly talk about my items. They're just good trading items, right? Mango and Fairy Fire, it's a nice mix of damage and mana that helps me out. And all I really want to do in this lane is try to hit the Axe as much as possible and secure range creep. So you notice I get nuked here and I secure the range creep. If my Gyro is Fade Bolted, he has 34 damage, and as a result, I really have to, like, I really have to secure range creeps in this lane. So that was kind of my main priority for the most part. Other than that, like, I'm focusing on getting some denies here. I can't really zone them out at the moment. I don't feel like there's too much I can do in terms of actually zoning. Maybe I'm wrong about that one, but that was my general vibe of this lane. Here I wanted to Brain Sap. I messed up for whatever reason. Didn't get around the trees early enough. But overall, my goal here is just to get Gyro some levels. In fact, I think maybe what I could have done is position more to the south and given him an early level 3. So if I would change one thing about this lane, as it, you know, it doesn't go the best, it goes all right, is maybe give Gyro more levels earlier on rather than, you know, taking quite a bit, because I don't need level 3 that early. It's good on Bane, it's good, right? It doubles the numbers, it's fantastic, but I think it's more important on Gyro. So the first clip we're going to be looking at here is actually our first kill on the Axe in this lane, and let's identify the situations. So Rubik just TP'd mid, and we were notified of that. And as a result, right, we can put ourselves in this position to kill this guy, right? We were both talking, we're like, yeah, we can go on him. First off, basic communication, extremely important for actually securing kills. So you notice I'm hitting him a bit here. I know we wanted to get aggressive, and as a result, I wrap into these trees. I actually mess up my sleep here. I nearly lost this kill, frankly. But I get off the Brain Sap, realizing that now at this point my Gyro's on top of him, and we get the kill. And basically that's identifying when someone leaves the lane, right? You really want to be paying attention to who's walking around, who's showing where, and if you're, for instance, the Shadow Demon who was mid when the Rubik went mid, you want to call things like that out and play around TPs, right? That's why you might hear a lot in certain videos that what pros look for a lot of the time is TPs to make plays, because once someone TPs, it means that they can't be somewhere else. I mean, it's very simple, but at the same time, it's a massive idea to think about. And now we get a really nice like shrine into bounties and are back now in the top lane. I catch out this Axe, and once again I'm communicating to my Gyro. Once I see this Axe, I'm like run over, right? And now we are able to once again run at them. I actually mess up here. I once again think I should have slept early. We get blocked a bit, end up settling for the kill on the Rubik, but not bad, right? Because our main goal here is just to shut down the axe to a large extent, and that's exactly what's happening. You notice that its net worth right now, not too great, 500 behind the gyro, and that's just a result of us running at him a bit, right? Axe is a hero that isn't necessarily that strong early, especially against a hero like Gyro with his high level of rocket barrage, so I really like what happened there. In fact, I'm really glad that we made a play mid, because I think forcing that one Rubik TP gave us a gap to start pressuring this axe. Especially considering he's not cutting. But he really can't cut because I'll just sleep him off the wave, so there's not much really he can do there. Another good reason for us to pick Bane in that case. And yeah, once again, kind of same thing here. I'm just scouting him out. Once again, talking to my Gyro. I'm like, okay, we can kill him at this camp. And finally, I don't mess up my sleep for once. Bit rusty, not gonna lie. But regardless, we get the kill, and now this guy's shut down. And the big thing about shutting down tempo controllers is that it really throws off the pace of the game, because he wants to work together probably with the Ember this game to make space and get the kills, but that's just not going to be an option for him because his blink is going to be unbelievably delayed right now, right? He doesn't even have boots yet, which is a bit weird to me, right? I don't know why he bought the blades first, but maybe he was probably just buying out, frankly, or didn't think he would die. And he finds out that we have a ward. That ward was doing a lot for us, though. Next up here is one thing I really like doing on a support. I just want to show off, like, it's 8 minutes in, I'm level 5.5, which is super high. I think I stepped way too many levels for my Gyro, to be frank. I don't think there's any other way for me to put that. But really what I have to say is that I don't mind sapping XP, right? A bit of XP from this lane, even though I'm a high level, because I understand it will enable me to hit my early level 6. And not only that, we'll be doing a bit, which we'll be talking about in a second. Oh, I should have slept them there. That was a mistake. My Gyro was TPing in. A bit slow. What you'll notice in a bit is that I buy a Tome of Knowledge, right? And that Tome of Knowledge, what it enables me to do is actually just give it to the Bristleback. Wait, no, I think he bought it. Regardless, we're able to give the Tome of Knowledge to the Bristleback, and you notice at 9 minutes, I have my level 6, and this isn't going to happen every game, but I'm adjusting to my situation. So I pop a smoke, which I used with the Courier because I knew I was going to hit level 6, right? Kind of using my level advantage with my timing. We even scan the tower to see if they have any TPs coming in. They don't. And we pick up a kill on the mid laner, right? That's strictly because I had a really good start. At minute 9, I hit level 6, so me sapping levels from Gyro wasn't great for Gyro. I'm not going to deny that, right? He's actually a lower level than me at this point, which I don't want to be the case. I really don't. I don't think that's a great place to be. But at the same time, if I'm going to take the levels, which, you know, happen as a result of me brawling a lot in that lane, then I'm going to make sure that, you know, we get put in a situation where I can use my levels. And now we're diving mid, right? Diving mid is actually something very important to do when you're ahead or you feel like you have any sort of advantage because we're going to force a lot of TPs, right? We get the Rubik TP and kill him. Now we force out a Axe TP, but this Axe has nothing, right? He's just like a level 7 Axe, doesn't really do too much damage. Now we can sleep and run away. Alright, so in general, I really like our plays there because we get this kill on mid, then we instantly force the mid tower, which brings over the Rubik. We kill off the Rubik because he's just a weak support trying to TP in. Our Leshrac gets out, and now they're actually set up for a mid push, which I think is a good play by them. But now you're going to notice, before I die, I'm going to make space. A big problem I see with a lot of support players is they don't consider how to create space even when they're dying. They just give up. Do not give up, okay? Because if we slow down this clip here, I get off my brain sap with 100 HP, I pop my wand, and now all of a sudden I have high HP, right? And you notice, okay, they're like, oh, we're gonna get the kill. I Fairy Fire, and now they have to burn their OD ult. And you might have been like, well, why did OD ult? Actually, I think there's a chance I get away there, or I waste another like 20 seconds if he doesn't. So frankly, them doing that just wastes a lot of time on their push, right? It delayed the push for another like 20 seconds. And at the same time, right now our other cores are farming for even longer. It allows our Bristle to rotate in, right? You notice Bristle now gets mid. So those 5 to 6 seconds burn OD ult, right? Me casting my spells and getting my stuff off, burn OD ult, and allowed my Bristle to save the mid tower. So really, don't give up when you're dying. It's actually a big thing that I see with a lot of players that it doesn't frustrate me, but I think it's, if you're gonna die, just get your stuff off. No, if you're a Rubik, Fade Bolt. If you're a CM, Nova, Frostbite, etc. Like, use your stuff. So at this point in the game, I don't think there's a very clear play for me to make, right? We see the Ember bottom. I don't have TP up, so I can't get any plays there. The OD even shows briefly bottom. Shen is mid. I don't want to gank a Shen, especially considering he'll easily cancel my grip. So what can I do? What are my options? For me, it's to ward, right? I want to start getting up deep vision so that we can play in aggressive parts in the map, or so we can see people jungling, right? You might be like, well, Speed, what is the point of this ward? It's strictly just so we can see anyone jungling, right? If someone decides to take the tri-camp at any point, which Axe definitely will, OD might, Ember might, then we can make a play on the other side of the map because we either see TPs or we simply see them farming. And now, because I'm top, I can kind of make this play on the Axe. We don't end up catching him here, but this is the first team play that I want to talk about. It's a big example. I get like hecka juked here. you notice I make the grip. It was probably a bad idea in the first place because it was under a tower. But in general, you might be like, well, this is such a mistake, Speed. Like, what are you thinking? Of course they're going to TP in. But at the same time, what ends up happening is that they TP 5 heroes, which enables them to get the top tower. But at the same time, the only kill that they get is on our SD, right? We make the good play of not overcommitting. We're not like mad. I see a lot of players, they'll commit a Ravage or a Fiend's Grip, and even though they get nothing out of it, they just keep going because they feel committed. If you mess up a big spell, do not feel the need to keep going if you feel that the fight is trash. Just get out. And that is exactly what happens here, because you notice Gyro farming mid, Bristle farming bottom. Right, and this is the Bristle who took the tome, which is why he's level 9. So do not feel like you have to save your teammates. You notice me and the Leshrac both run away without hesitation, and they have now used maybe 5 TPs, right? Rubik doesn't have one, Ember used his earlier, Axe does have one, Shen has one, but now OD also does not have one because he used his. So he forced a couple of TPs and made them make plays around the map, which, you know, ends up leading to this little play, which was a bit weird, where the OD gets hit by a rocket. But regardless, we get another kill. And the big thing I want to know here is right after we get this OD kill, we have a couple options, but there's one main clear one. It's why getting any sort of gank around mid is so important and such a big deal, because we get this kill and we instantly can transition it into a mid kill on the tower, which is a big deal in these games, right? It really allows you to play other areas of the map. You notice now we can immediately rush to bottom, and because we take this tier 1 tower, I can even throw up the high ground ward, which, because it's early, right, we don't have mid tier 2, we don't have bottom tier 1, because it's early, in my opinion, it gets dewarded a lot less. And you might be like, once again, Speed, what does that actually do for your tier 1 push? Well, in my opinion, like my personal take on a ward like that, what it enables us to do is, once again, see people jungling. So we have these 2 deep wards, which aren't necessarily like the best for fighting around the towers that we might want to push, but it allows us to see people potentially farming and push a tier 2 in the future. I think this was our first mistake in the game. We mass TP top, which wasn't the best. We kind of lose a lot of pressure on bottom. So in my opinion, what maybe we should be doing here, if I pause the game, is pressuring this tier 1 bottom, and in order to do that, we could just have the Bristle top and run the other 4 heroes bot. But regardless, we play the Gyro top, which is fine as well. It's going to give him a lot of farm. And overall, I like that my Bristle is continuing to farm. He didn't overreact. He kept farming. And that I really like. Our cores are greedy. Like, I'm not going to lie, right? Our cores are very, very greedy. Right? We have 3 heroes that want farm. So having one not overreact and continuing to farm when we make plays is really good for keeping our net worth up. You notice if we stick around 3k, it is bouncing back and forth. We're not super far ahead, but he's making good plays out of our space, right? Which is just hitting creeps. And this is a big thing I noticed that a lot of low MMR teams make, is where when they feel like they have an advantage, they just like group up and run down lanes. It's very inappropriate to do in the majority of situations, because you're going to get split pushed and the enemy heroes are going to come back and farm, right? Unless you have some death ball lineup that takes towers instantly, which, like, we have a Leshrac, so it's okay, but then we have 2 other cores that want to farm. You don't have to group up that hard. Like, you really, really don't, right? We're going to get bounties. We take the tier 1 eventually, right? So in general, you don't have to always feel the need to make these insane 5-man pushes when you're ahead. You don't have to end the game early because you feel like you have a slight advantage. Sometimes the best play to make when you're ahead is to sort of slow it down. Making good plays is fantastic, right? We're playing on the enemy side of the map, but you notice we're not just running at them, right? We don't just run at their heroes, because what happens if we run at their heroes? Let's think about it. If my team instantly just runs at this OD who we see on this ward that I placed earlier, what happens? We simply run at them, and then they TP bottom, right? Because if we leave bottom and we run at them top, they simply TP bottom and farm. So we're just going to waste time. Also, then we'll have to take a tier 1 top, which is not that useful for us, right? If we take a tier 1 top, what do we get out of it? Maybe a bit of Roshan control, which is not bad, right? It's not bad, but at the same time, I don't think we have the major intent of taking Rosh right now. We do have a Bristle Goo, but other than that, it's not the best Roshan taking team. So what we really wanted to do is just pressure these outside objectives, so we're not freaking out and responding to this Ember or this OD. Even though we're ahead, we're taking a key objective. Now, we had some gripes about defending this tier 2 top. It definitely was an option. We actually TP'd the Bristle, a bit later on, because we decided we wanted to sort of defend it, and end up making some TPs a bit later. But the more important part is we're still getting their bottom tier 2. And just to sum it up, we end up leaving bottom, which I think was probably our first mistake of this game. I don't think it was a great idea, because it's going to let them deward our wards. If you look at the Rubik right now, what he's going to do is instantly start checking hills, right? Which is what he does, I believe. Right? So he gets a deward on this hill, and in general, once you leave an area, you're going to get dewarded. So it's funny, because exactly what the Rubik is doing is what I'm doing as well on the opposite side, and this is kind of like a key thing of high MMR games, right? People take over areas rather than just running around like chickens without their head, or whatever the saying is. It's a lot more about area play and controlling parts of the map. So when they go top, I'm assuming they're using wards to control parts of the map, so I have to deward their wards. So I got, I believe, 2 dewards, and the Rubik does the same exact thing. And that's why it's important to kind of learn sneaky wards, like this one on this hill, right? It's not unheard of, but look, it's staying alive, and this can give us key information later on, potentially. And you notice now we go back bottom. We want to set up on December. I wasn't able to catch him. I think I messed up a bit, frankly. But in general, the main thing to consider here is that what we're doing is we're getting back bottom because we felt like we could have pressured this side of the map as fast as possible. So we push in top, right? We look at the lanes here. We push in top, so that's no longer a threat, right? We won't have to react to it. Mid is fairly in, and now we can instantly run back bottom. Chen makes a fantastic play with the centaur there. But we run back bottom, and now if they decide to split push, which is what they were doing, we can run high ground, and that's exactly what they do. You see me ping up the high ground. We can force them back, guys. We felt like we were pretty strong. We had a very strong bristleback, level 13, decent timing, right? Our drums. We have our bots and yules, so we felt pretty strong. We also have 2 saves. However, we understand that this tower is not an easy get, right? It is by no means an easy get, right? They have Fade Bolt, they have chains, they have Sleight of Fist. So you notice we don't overcommit. This is the biggest thing in Dota for every single game. And you might be like, well, Speed, this is 5-man, so there's no possible way this would happen in my pubs. Yeah, not this clean. Definitely not as clean as what happens in this game. However, you can get anywhere close to it with proper communication. If you can convince your team not to dive previous to the fight starting, right before you walk up the high ground, that's a big plus. And then yell at your team to get back, that's also a big plus. So you notice here, me and Save are on the Shadow Demon are making sure our Leshrac doesn't get gone on. We're protecting our hero that does high ground damage. And once we get them to back, right, they showed all 5 heroes, we back off. We are not taking a fight up their high ground into, their base. That is the way to lose these games, right? So us potentially going high ground there, I think could have just straight up lost us our lead and lost us the game. I'm not kidding. I think that was the first major decision that we made that separates, a high immortal team from even a low immortal team. And I'm being very, very serious, guys. So think that through and consider what we just did, especially for your own team games. But you notice our goal is not necessarily to leave the area, so we back off a bit and our gyro farm's top. I think maybe we could have just stayed bottom and made another smoke play for the tower. And that's sort of what we do here. So we wanted to get back bottom to not let up too much pressure. So we smoke, and you notice once again, we're picking out the tower. I could have warded the high ground, but they had sentryed it earlier, so I didn't want to get dewarded instantly. So I just get this one down in case someone steps out. And notice now, we get them out of the base, right? Our lanes aren't good top, but they don't have like a good split pushing hero, so it's not the end of the world for us. But in general, we get back bottom now, and we can instantly force the objective, and they might not be set up. So if we look at where they are, OD, Rubik, and Axe are nowhere close, right? And now they have to make the weird decision, do we commit TPs once again? Like awkwardly commit TPs? Or like let our base get sieged in, and they don't have much of a choice, so they have to commit all their TPs once again, right? OD is like clearly hesitating, but he does it eventually, right? Because, I mean, they don't want to let their racks go. And now, because we quickly did this and shipped it earlier, we instantly get their tower, but once again, we sort of back, right? Here, they sort of go on our bristleback. I sleep him. It definitely was unnecessary. I think that was a big waste of sleep, frankly. But once again, it's very hard for them to fight into us because we got set up and then we back, right? We don't dive them. Because we're making them play into our hands, it becomes a very hard fight for them, right? We're not running into them because if we do, the OD can start hitting people for free. But instead, we get this nice rocket down, we get the range tracks, and once again, we cleanly get out. No mistakes, no chances. Right? We're not overstepping our boundaries. We're not overplaying our hand. We're simply making sure we get what we feel necessary, which was the range racks, so that the lane shoves at least a little bit, and then we're backing. And right then and there, if you can implement that into your games where you get the little things and you don't overcommit, you're going to notice a huge difference. It really makes the game's difference because frankly, those situations, the high ground situations in particular are the ones where you throw them by diving. And now we're starting to notice a trend with their gameplay. They feel like they can't fight us. That was kind of our vibe of this game. That's why they were split pushing so much, or they wanted us to make a bad play. So you notice that now we can just go into the side lanes and start, playing around that. So he was trying to push in the lane. We get off a grip and get a kill on the Ember Spirit. This is kind of going to be the trend for the next 10 minutes or so, or generally 10 minutes, where they sort of try to split up the map, and my role as a Bane is to deal with that, right? My team, we don't necessarily have the best pick-off heroes, right? Bristle's not going to go blink Abyssal someone, or Gyro's not, Rocket's not fast enough. Leshrac can Yules, but it's not that reliable, especially against Ember, right? So it's sort of my job this game. That's what I assess this game as. And now that we took bottom, we felt like we could shove in top. Honestly, I don't know if this is always the best idea. as we don't want to have to run into their high ground or some bad area. And you notice they even TP in because I think they believed we were going to go for it. But you notice, once again, we don't throw our heads into a brick wall. We do not fight into a place with no vision. That is why you see this line. I'm communicating to everyone, guys, get to this high ground and we can fight there, right? We are not fighting in an area like of low vision. See where this Chen is right now? If we click on him, look at their vision right now. That's a super easy fight if they take it over there, right? So what we do instead is we smoke up, right? We group up, we smoke. Our Bristle is shoving in mid, which lets us take the tower later on. And now we can run up. I had no problem frontlining because I didn't feel like I was necessarily that useful. But we run up. We get, you know, we take over their part of the map. We get the key D wards, right? And now, I actually think I should have warded that high ground, frankly. I believe that was a mistake. But we get their D wards and we take over the area. You see how we didn't smash our head into the tier 1? We overrun the area. We kind of get this smoke play, which allows us to get a gap in their defense and now take the tower for free, right? And now we see this OD. If you guys see this ward that I placed through here, look at how it allows us to scout out the lanes. We see this OD running bottom now. And this is the big thing, right? So their Ember's playing top, their OD's playing bottom, right? And actually, where did this guy go? Oh, shoot. What a juke spot. I was looking for him the whole time. But now, because they were going in side lanes, they wanted to make these big plays and try to, you know, catch us off guard. And that's exactly what they go for here. I messed up and I brain sapped the blade mail, so I died. But regardless, he overcommitted. I think that was kind of a misplay on his part, and we get the Ember for it. So they were getting desperate. I genuinely think they believed they couldn't fight us at all. They were just too far behind in their opinions. That was my take. The Rubik's 0-3 has like very little net worth at all. Their Axe can't call anyone without them getting disrupted, unless it's like a 2 or 3 man call. So yeah, they were getting desperate. And now I saw this OD bottom, so I make the call to my team. Okay, I think the OD is going to keep playing like this. I got the vibe in this game, and I think a lot of my teammates did too, that they were just dodging, right? And because that's what they were doing, right? And people, you know, they often play around patterns. So instead of TPing to my team here, I'm like, I'll potentially look for this OD, and then I'll wrap back towards you. I see him in the tower here, and I set up. Now, this is a weird situation because I catch him here, but I see this Axe, obviously. I'm like, oh god. My team's TPing in, and I have the option to grip him or not here. This was a weird play, and it's one I want to briefly discuss. I grip him so that the Axe has to commit, but I think at the same time, maybe I could have held it. I just didn't want him to disengage, because if he walks to the left and gets out of vision, he might be able to blink away, right? He has a blink. So I force out the call, which I felt was, you know, necessary. And then, oh god, this is atrocious, where I messed with vision and then didn't sleep. That was really bad, guys. Don't look at that. You can flame me for that one. But in general, we force out, once again, we pressure them out of the side lanes. Our Leshrac, big play by the Leshrac, he instantly goes mid. This is huge. Defends our mid tower and prevents them from, once again, getting map control. So this wasn't the best. We wasted some time on the sacks. But we're gaining a net worth lead. And look at how the map develops and look at what we do. Right, so once again, Leshrac gets out mid, and then Bristle does the same thing. I really like what they do here. They are preventing the enemy team from getting the complete creep advantage, right? We do not have to back to any of our tier 2s to get the waves. The Bristle simply can cut here, right? And now we can even pressure a shrine with our Leshrac. I can get up deep vision, right? And we're constantly setting up to play on their side of the map and force them back. That is our goal here. Force them back, not necessarily to play on our side. We don't want to play on our side. We want to force them back and maybe catch them here and there if the time comes. And now right here, I actually really think this is an important clip in general. Going back to the topic of like when you're playing ahead, taking over areas is the big thing. Not chasing, but taking over areas and shutting down parts of the map. So you notice like we get in bottom really hard and mid as well, so they're pushed into their base, right? Because that's how farming creeps works typically, unless you're cutting. And then this is why you have to buy a ton of sentries, because frankly we can pick out this hill and we can look for their wards. I actually don't know if they had any. Yeah, it looks like they did have a hill ward, so we take over their wards, right? Which is why you have to buy sentries to check all these things. I check over if they have any on these hills. Then I check for this hill, and I'm basically making sure they can't get a surprise initiation on us. That is my only goal here as to position 5, and you know, with the Bristle and the Gyro in this area as well, you notice like we're all in this area and making sure we can take it over. So I really like that. And now we were fine with how the game was going. Like we scale completely fine. We have 3 different snowball cores. So honestly, we had no problem with the game going at this pace, even though we weren't rushing high ground. But really what we were generally waiting for is some timing. So now we get a BKB on our Leshrac, right? His 10-second. We have our 9-second on Gyro, and we have a 10-second BKB on the Courier for Bristleback, right? So now we felt like we sort of wanted to make a play and wanted to force an objective once again and force them back into the base. Assuming, you know, okay, oh wow, I actually didn't even see this. Oh, this is hilarious. So they smoke. They were trying to wrap on us, but I didn't even know. They bumped heads. They go on our gyro, but you notice due to what our team comp provides, they try to kill him, but it's just not going to work, right? We have Nightmare or Disruption for him, and now the axe goes in. He unfortunately isn't able to get the proper call off, and what happens is now he just dies, right? So we first off killed their initiator, which is a big deal. Our Leshrac is going to be running into the backlines here, right? So he's zoning out the supports, completely preventing them from doing anything. And then our other two heroes, right? Our Gyro, me and the Shadow Demon, as well as the Bristleback, are going to be killing the rest of the backline, right? So I get a group buff on the OD, we kill him off, and now we're in a really good spot. So I really like that. We took a fight inside their base, so if we win, we get, an objective, and if we lose, nothing really too bad comes out of it besides the losing net worth. So in general, I feel like that was really good for us and a great place for us to take a fight because we got that award, and we're lucky enough to actually, catch out the axe early on there. Kind of caught them off guard because they were smoked as well. And once again here, I feel like I just have to point this out over and over again, but the diligent back is the most important thing in the game. Right, you notice we could have kept going here, but we don't, right? We simply get out and make sure that we're playing the map properly, right? We don't overforce things. We get this glyph, we're like, that's great, we got glyph, and we get out, right? We simply back, and that is super important. We're not overplaying our hand, we're not, going for too much. We simply take what we can get and slowly build our advantage by taking over areas of the map. And I think that's why we won this game for the most part. Very often, especially with these stacks, right? This isn't a team. It's just like a bunch of high MMR players playing together. Typically what happens is one person gets caught off guard or doesn't understand the game plan, and as a result you make a bad play. But I felt like we were very coordinated this game, and it's why I really want to show it to you. And now we get this really nice find out to the Rubik. He has no buyback. And then here, this is really what I want to talk about. So once we kill this Rubik top, instantly what pops into my head is the previous pattern which we identified. Right, and what that previous pattern was that they were going to split push, right? So instantly what I recognize is this OD's mid, he's going to try to split push. I take out my Clarity because I understood that I didn't have enough mana for neither my Nightmare or my Fiend's Grip, so I take out the Clarity. And I want to prevent this split push because I feel like this was their only way to stall at the game. So I pop my Glimmer Cape, which actually almost burns out the majority of my mana. I should have dropped my Bracer before wanding, just to make sure I had enough, or even just drop them now to get the Clarity value. Almost messed up this kill. Due to the pathing thing, right? I kind of clicked on him and messed up there, but with a quarter of a second, literally a millisecond, maybe he could have gotten BKB off. Not that it matters with grip, but regardless, we catch him out and we prevent the split push, right? Which is really important. So that's kind of identifying patterns, and you can do that in pubs too. So if you see someone go bottom 8 times in a row, you can assume they're going to do it the 9th time, even if it's twice in a row, kind of what this game is, where it was 3, 4, 5 times in a row where they went for consistent split push to get the lanes out and get farm. So as a Bane, you really like to set up against that, and it's actually a big reason why I even like Bane in solo queue, or used to pick him a lot, because I would do well in lane, and then I would pick off greedy cores with good coordination and smoke ganks. Smoke ganks are huge for Bane. It's why we've, I think, used all of our smokes up to this point. We have, which isn't always the best. But now in this fight, I'm just staying back. You notice I'm not overextending. I don't have grip. I probably should be staying with my team a little bit more here. I remember this fight. I felt like maybe I could end up sleeping him. So I get a little bit too caught up on this Ember. I should have ignored him and helped out my Leshrac, right? As they were going in, they were diving, doing their thing. So yeah, I think I probably should have backed and played with my team, which doesn't end up happening here. But regardless, we get another Rax and we get out, right? Our gyro ends up dying, but that was it. So once again, a good back by us. We don't ever overcommit, and I think that was just the best part of this game. And the last thing I want to talk about before we just kind of go towards the end is this mid-tier 1. So our gyro's dead, and they're pushing the mid-tier 1. They can't really threaten Roche that well because of the nature of their heroes. We just didn't feel threatened, right? We identified that we didn't want to, even fight this tier 1, and by not fighting this tier 1, we don't give them an opening to win, right? If we go to this tier 1 here, they have the potential to take a good fight, so instead we let them have it, and we identify, okay, they can't get Roche, they're not going to push tier 2, so we'll just kind of chill, and let things kind of just go back to how they were. Yeah, that's exactly how things go. Now this kind of weird event happens where this Rubik blinks in for, I have no idea reason why, frankly, and he dies, so that was kind of bizarre. But yeah, we get Roche, right? And now this is how our game plan is going to go. We get Roche, and we end the game. And yeah, this is very important. Once again, another big idea of closing out the game. We have taken Roche twice now, I believe, and it's super important, right? It's just very important. Getting Roche on ends games, right? And now the last thing we have to do is simply get in the lanes and take one more fight with our Aegis, and that will be the game. But this is Dota. People expect to just end the game in 20 minutes because they're ahead. No, it's like throwing the game if you try to end because you have like a 5k net worth lead. It's very dangerous. There are very limited strategies that legitimately want to do that. Typically how you want to play is sort of how I'm playing right now, where we're just playing backline. They go for a backline jump here, which is why I placed that high ground ward. I get caught, which was probably not the best positioning, because frankly, I should be on the left side here, because, you know, they can't actually flank from the left. They can flank from the right, so I think bad positioning on my part, and maybe even the Shadow Demons. But at this point, they're too far behind, so they use all their resources on bursting the supports, right? The Axe Call and the BKBs, and then they kind of just run out of damage, right? This OD forces out his stuff. He runs out of BKB, and now the game's over. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that a lot. I really want to show this game to you because I felt like it was super clean Dota and some very good examples of how to end your games and avoid throwing. Are we perfect? Of course not. I'm sure if a pro player looked at this game, they'd be like, disgusting. That's hard to know, but I just want to give you an example of what maybe a higher MMR game looks like. Maybe not tier 1, but tier 2-ish is what I'll call this, or, you know, somewhere around there. Don't get too mad at me. Yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. I had a lot of fun making this one. I had a lot of fun playing this game. Shout out to the boys, Red2, Kong, Save Dota, and Chives. It was a blast playing with you guys, and hopefully I can make more of this 5-man content in the future. GG. Your team does not deserve your support. But holy crap, do they need it? At gameleap.com, we have hundreds of guides teaching you how the best support players in Dota secretly carry their games with awful teammates without them even knowing it. Click on this link right now to take advantage of our special offer for a 25% discount and start your journey today.